Hello, and welcome back to the second episode of the Flying Cat Marketing video and podcast series. I'm Maiva Cifuentes, your host, and today I'm reporting to you from the Flying Cat Marketing headquarters, which is here in my apartment in Barcelona during the lockdown. We have a very relevant episode today because I'm going to be chatting with George Bell, who's the marketing manager at Sanctus, a London-based startup whose mission is to normalize mental health in the workplace. We're going to be talking about how to encourage positive conversations around mental health at your company, which will help both your company and your employees perform better, and how to do so remotely, especially in a crisis like this one. If you like this episode, please give it a like, share it with your friends and colleagues, and subscribe to my channel. Let's dive in. I feel like there's so much to talk about. I mean, pre-crisis, your brand was already really into helping people with their mental health. And actually, why don't you explain Sanctus a little bit? I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Sanctus?
Yep, yeah, that's perfect, yeah.
Why don't you explain what you guys did? I imagine that your model is going to have to shift now.
Yep.
So what did you do and what are you doing now?
Yeah, so basically our brand's called Sanctus, as you saw, and we're a mental health startup that's really on this mission to normalize the conversation around mental health and get people working on their mental health just like they do their physical health. So that's kind of been our core mission from day one, which is about 4 years ago. And that's always led whatever we've done. So rather than found a company with a specific product in mind, we had that mission and we kind of, in the very early days, my founder just tested whatever he could to fulfill that mission. So I think we started as a chatbot, or he calls it a chatbot, but it was basically him on WhatsApp messaging people, which it's not scalable at all. But what eventually the model came to was coaching. So one-to-one coaching where we give people a space where they can talk about their mental health. And I think what was really, really crucial for us is that it was open to anyone. So a lot of the conversation around mental health, particularly in the UK 4 years ago, was very focused on only the 1 in 4 that will have a mental health issue. This is the big stat in the UK. So very, very focused on things like depression, anxiety. I think they're really, really important parts of the conversation, and everyone that works at Sanctus has had their struggles with their mental health. But the big thing for us was actually mental health is a really, really big spectrum. There's everyone sits on it. 4 in 4 people have mental health, and we should all be talking about it. Just like we do our physical health, really. You've got people that go to the doctor that are sick, and then you've got people going to the gym every single day to work out. So that was really that's always been the thing we wanted, is get everyone to work on it and normalize that conversation. And I think our crazy, crazy vision is to one day put mental health gyms on the high street. That's really what we're aiming for. What we were doing at the moment is this one-to-one coaching. So basically placing Sanctus coaches within businesses. So we only work with businesses at the moment, giving employees a space where they can, just talk about their mental health. And it hasn't been too much of a shift at the moment, to be honest. We were probably operating about 90% in person. So we'd put a coach within a business physically, and about 10% was done virtually online. So we were sort of already set up for this virtual coaching. I mean, we've had to go 100% virtual now. So I think we just basically pivoted within 72 hours, but a lot of the infrastructure had already been there. I think if it hadn't, it would have been a bit of a nightmare this period.
Yeah.
But the core product is still the same, and I think we're still able to, fulfill our mission of getting people to talk about their mental health, and probably more so now, to be honest. Mental health has become a forefront for every person almost. We've definitely had to change the model a little bit.
Yeah, cool. So I saw that almost all of your employees, well, I guess everybody that I've seen involved with Sanctus on LinkedIn is always talking about their mental health, and they're very present on LinkedIn. Is that a requirement for working for Sanctus, or how does that work?
Yes, it's funny. When we interview people, they a lot of them say in the interview that they're a bit nervous about coming in and sharing online because they see us do it so much. But it's not forced. I think what's been really nice is actually everyone's really bought into it. But it really just started with a couple of us, like my founder James and me, just sharing online. I think there wasn't a big marketing strategy behind it. It wasn't a big lead gen exercise. I think we just we had stories we wanted to share, and for me in particular, it's a real creative outlet. Like I love sharing. I love trying to inspire people and help people. So for me, that has just been my outlet. And I think actually, because there was no pressure on it or no strategy as such, we just shared really honestly from the heart, really transparent. We weren't worrying about hitting like certain keywords or SEO or any of that. We just shared. And because of that, it was just authentic and real, and actually it made it really relatable. So people really kind of bought into it, and we've had like amazing traction and reach, and in touch with us on the back of it. So I mean, it took us ages to realize, but we were like, hold on, I think actually this is a marketing thing. I think we've actually got a strategy here without knowing it. So then we sort of turned it into a bit more of a strategy, and yeah, like actually tried to use it as more of a marketing tool. But I think we still get messages through from people who say like, your content has really helped me, or I'm going through a really difficult time, and you know, this one post really helped me. So I think there's obviously the business element, but there's the fact that we know we're actually doing good and helping people. And I think the rest of the team have started to see that, and everyone's got a story they want to share, like whether they know it or not. So I think everyone's kind of wanted to get a little piece of that. And yeah, I think in my role as marketing manager, like I do sort of nudge people. So I do try and get them on, I call it the personal brand train, which is just an awful name, but I do try and sort of nudge people. And I think this period especially, I've nudged everyone. So I've actually put together a schedule and just asked everyone to just post once a week. There's no like restrictions on it. I just said like, talk about what's going on for you, like how you feeling, right from the heart, put a post up, see how you get on, and everyone's enjoyed it and had really good traction. So I think I've got everyone bought in. I am sort of trying to form it as a bit more of a strategy now, because yeah, it does work. And the reach you can get, particularly on LinkedIn, the reach you can get, the organic reach is so much higher than business pages. So it actually just makes business sense as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And now that everybody in the entire world is being heavily affected by, their mental healths are being heavily affected by this, and they're all online and they're all trying to figure out remote work. How can a company help their employees stay sane in a time like this and not fall into this spiral of anxiety and depression?
So how can we help our own employees, or how can we help other employees?
Well, I mean, how can a company help their employees? So how are you helping your employees, for example? But I guess that any other company could take an example.
Yeah, I think the big thing for us really is, at a time like this when there's a lot of uncertainty going on anyway in the world, and that's impacting people, like their lives, relationships, jobs, finances, whatever, there's a lot of room for anxiety, uncertainty, worry, a lot of room for people to start making up stories about their own life, and asking themselves, am I going to get made redundant? Am I still going to have a job? Am I still going to be able to see my family, whatever it is? And that can kind of be heightened when you're at home, like when you're confined at home. You can't see your boss every day or your team. You can't always ask the questions you want to ask. Just seeing like the same walls every day, you feel like you're maybe in a prison, and the things that go on in your head, they can be heightened and amplified. So I think what's really, really important for a company to do, and what we do, is just try and strip back as much of that as possible. So be as transparent and honest with your team as possible. Over communicate. If you could send an email, but it could be a phone call, have the phone call instead. Make sure you're getting the connection time in. I think really just having that like honest, transparent conversation regularly, it helps remove a lot of the like doubt and worry that people have. You know, when we pivoted, or when all this was happening, and I think at first we were talking about, are we going to be in trouble? Like, now that businesses are having to watch their finances a little bit, we're a mental health benefit. Like we're important, but we're still a benefit. So are we one of the things that gets cut? And we weren't really sure. And obviously that caused a lot of anxiety among the team, because everyone starts wondering, well, how, like, are we going to be okay, basically? And my boss, James, just basically sent like a really, really long, transparent email to the whole business, all the employees, just telling everyone what our financial situation is, what the business plan is, what would happen if X happens. He let everyone know that if, like, the worst case scenario, his plan with redundancies is that he wants everyone to suffer a little rather than a few people suffer a lot. I think everyone reading that email, like everyone, we all kind of responded on the thread feeling a lot more reassured now, because we know where the finances are at, we know what the business plan is looking like, and then everyone gets bought in and really wants to make that plan work. So I think it's just transparency, honesty, and over communication, basically.
Yeah. But do you guys really think that you're just a benefit? I feel like now in this kind of time, you're going to be a necessity. I mean, mental health is a necessity now.
Yeah, and do you know what, we've actually seen both. So we've lost some of our clients, not many, but we've lost a couple so far. We're only 2 weeks into this, but they are really struggling. So two like big hit industries are the events industry, like no one's going to events anymore, and recruitment industries, like a lot of people aren't hiring. So they get hit, they're having to make redundancies and cut where else they can. So we get cut, which, I mean, it's not something they want to do. Obviously, they want to keep the benefits in place. But then on the flip side, we've seen a ton of inquiries come in and a lot of interest, because mental health is now, like you say, it's almost not a benefit anymore. It's literally, I think, at the forefront of every business's mind now is, number one, how do we get set up virtually? Number two, how do I look after my staff? So I think that there was like a week where we weren't sure. We weren't sure, are businesses going to want to invest in benefits, or are they going to want to cut? And actually, I think we've seen generally businesses are not, like, looking to support their staff. Yeah.
How can they support their staff more? I mean, everybody's suffering, everybody's freaking out, and I just, what are things that people can do at home to, I already asked you this actually, to not get sucked into the spiral. I mean, what's the best way to stay focused in a time like this?
I think for individuals, like, people need to, like, do what they can to control their own lives. There's obviously a lot that is going on at the moment that is out of people's control. So everything that's happening with the coronavirus, that is out of people's control, and they can't control the spread of the virus. But what people can control is how they respond to it, what they consume, what they do in their daily lives. So if people are, and I've been guilty of this, consuming like whatever media you can, like breaking news, gossip columns, tweets, like people's own personal opinions, the sort of, I'm trying to say this diplomatically, like the not as good media sources that just want to like sell their stories. If you consume that, which, like, as I was doing, and that I started to feel anxious, say, like reading all this stuff, that is something I could have controlled, which I wasn't. So I've put controls in place now. Like, I've blocked certain websites. I've been careful what I consume. That has helped with my response. So I think, yeah, there's so much we can't control, but just look at the things you can. You can still control your diet. You can still control who you see. You can still control exercising. You can still control who you talk to and who you don't, connecting with your team. Yeah. I think there's a lot that people can do. And, you know, obviously what's happening is serious, and obviously people are sadly dying, but a large part of the problem as well is like an anxiety crisis and like a mental health crisis. And a lot of the things that people should do or could do every day of their lives, regardless of the coronavirus, to manage their anxiety, it's exactly the same now. Like what you eat, how you live, getting enough sleep in, what you consume. So I think, yeah, that's what I'd say. Just do what you can to control your own life, and that actually really helps.
Yeah. And you guys had to shift, so not only your product you had to pivot to totally virtual and totally remote, but you also had to pivot your whole team remote, where before being together was very important to your company, and now you all have to be apart. So how did you guys manage to, what tools are you using, and how did you manage to shift to a remote team in such a short amount of time?
Yeah, I actually, before I worked at Sanctus, I was freelancing for like 3 years. So I've worked remote before. So I think for me, it wasn't like I was ready for it. Whereas I think a lot of the team were almost, I think scared is the right word. They were scared to do it because I think, yeah, being like we're a business that really values connection. I think not like in a really loose way, but because we actually believe that a large part of people like maintaining good mental health is about connecting with each other and teams and family. And so much of our product is about connection, connecting with a coach. So I think we know that this word connection, this thing connection, actually really can help your mental health. So I think we were worried that something would be lost basically by doing it over a laptop. And I think the first week was a challenge. Like, we're obviously we have a very, very open, transparent culture where people do talk about their mental health. So yeah, people were messaging through on Slack like, I feel really anxious, I feel shit, like this isn't good, like I need help. Not like seriously, but people were like, I need to get back into the office. And then actually, I think as people have got used to it, and we've done what we can to sort of keep FaceTime up. So we've got like a daily tea break together at 11 a.m. every day on Zoom. We have like a reflection space once a week, so that's also on Zoom, where we basically just come on and we talk about how we're feeling. So it might be work, it might be something else. It's something we always used to do once a month in the office. So just a space for people to be really, really honest, whatever that is. Like, people have talked about everything in there, from like work to dating to family to the fact they've had an argument with their neighbour and they're really pissed off. Like, it's literally anything comes out. So we've kept that space up, but we're doing that once a week now. I think that really, really helps, because I think a large part of what makes a situation like this hard for people is they'll feel a certain way and they've got nowhere to put it, especially if they're feeling anxious or scared. They don't know how to talk about it, or they feel they can't. So the problem gets worse, whereas we've got a space where we can just go online and just literally say, like, do you know what? I feel really, really anxious. Like, I'm not doing good. I think just saying it, and then a few of the team will maybe say, they're going through a similar thing. That really, really helps. And we always come off those calls and say, like, the thing's not fixed. Like, I'm still stuck in the house, but I feel better. So I think we just make sure we're getting FaceTime in. And then keeping up the real thing that I think just helps is that honest connection, honest transparency, which you don't need to be in the office to do. You can easily do that over a phone call or over Zoom.
Yeah. I know that there are some companies that they're doing this in an attempt to, stay positive and optimistic and not get sucked into negativity, but they have a policy that's no negativity. So if you're coming to the call, you can't say, oh, I'm feeling so depressed, I'm feeling anxious, and they're not doing it specifically because, I don't want to hear that stuff, but they're trying to stay positive. But then I feel like you also need to be able to express your negative emotions. How do you find the right balance between not everybody coming to the meeting and just only talking about negative feelings, because that's what they're honestly feeling at the moment, but also finding a balance between adding the positivity? And is it okay to say no negativity allowed?
Yeah, to start on that, I personally no, I don't agree with that. I think that's, like, this is the problem. Like, this is why we exist as a company, because people don't want to talk about mental health. They don't want to talk about the hard bits. They want to just ignore it. People wait until things get really, really, really bad. Then they get signed off work 6 months. They become suicidal. They go to therapy. I think ignoring a thing doesn't make the thing go away. Like, it's still there. And I understand companies' logic, but I don't think it's healthy, really, that this perfect utopia where negative feelings don't exist. That doesn't exist. Like, it's just not. Yeah, it's not real. Like, people have struggles every single day. It might not be something serious. It could be something simple, like you miss your train, and that causes some frustration, and then you carry that frustration round. So I don't agree with, like, almost banning negativity, because I think what then you actually do is ban part of being human, and you tell people bring 50% of yourself, but don't bring your whole self. And I don't agree with that, but I do think you have to find a balance. So obviously you are still at work and you still have a job, and you still need to do that job and take part in meetings or whatever it might be. And I think a company or someone's own responsibility, like mental health, is their own responsibility. That's not the responsibility of the company, but I do think a company has a responsibility to create an environment where someone is supported. So if I think in our case, if someone is struggling or feeling anxious or whatever, then come on, say that, we're here to support. I think if that then became something that was getting in the way of someone's work, or they really feel they couldn't do their job, that's when you have a different type of conversation. But I think in our case, we have our meetings and people are really honest about where they're at. So some people right now, I think the things we've had, people are enjoying this, people are bored, people are using it as an experiment, people are scared, people are anxious. We've had the range of emotions. Everyone says it. Everyone knows where everyone is at. And I think it helps us to work better as a team, because I know, oh, that person is actually a bit scared right now. But then we still do our work and still do our job. But yeah, I think for us, we want companies to like embrace the tougher stuff and the more negative stuff. I think they generally don't. This isn't always the case, but I think generally they don't want to have it in the conversation because they don't know how to handle it and they're actually scared to handle it. So I think, yeah, I'm not judging any companies, because it's hard. It's hard to say to your team, if you want to come on the call and tell us all you're feeling really shit, then let's do it. It's hard to do that. So I think it's less about shaming, but more just about really starting like empowering leaders and CEOs and the people at the top to be able to hold space for these conversations and kind of be in touch with themselves, which will then inspire their team. But that's sort of something you can do overnight, obviously.
Yeah. How many people do you have on your team?
We've got 12 full-time people.
12.
And then
so you have 12. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, they're fine. We've got about 35 coaches, but they're not like part of the full-time team.
They don't come onto those calls where you talk about. And so how do you manage 12 people in how long? An hour a week? Or how do you manage 12 people who are all probably really stressed right now, to everybody get in and everybody be able to respond to them? I mean, just sitting, I also go to therapy. Yeah, just me sitting for 1 hour, I can fill that up easily. So how do you get 12 people to do that in a way that makes sense with time and productivity?
Yeah, so we have like one word or one sentence check-ins before we start a meeting, where people just check in like how they're feeling. Like literally it might be like, do you know what, I feel really shit right now, or I feel good, or I feel bored, or it could just be something like, I didn't sleep that well last night, so I'm pretty tired. That's it. There's not really like a big discussion about it. I think if someone says something that's a bit vague, like if someone says I feel weird, someone might say, what's making you feel weird? But then we don't like deep dive into that. It's just really helpful to know where people are at. Like if we know someone's literally knackered and then they're not really talking in the meeting, we know why, and we know not to kind of like drill them. But then I think people, that how it is dealt with outside of the space is like, that can be different. Like if we know, say someone said they're really, really struggling, probably the team will check in with them. Maybe their manager will check in with them. Maybe we'll say like, do you want to just have a chat after work or something? We use our own product internally, so we've got a coaching internally. So people, there's like support in place for people to take something. So it's a hard balance. Like we're still a business. Like we still need to make money, and we can't let like this other stuff get in the way of that. But I think it's about I think, as you said, finding the balance. How can we build a sustainable business that at the same time acknowledges that our employees are human beings that aren't, like, despite what the startup rhetoric might tell you, they're not machines that are just go every day, like fail fast, hustle, all that. Like it's not practical every single day, right?
Yeah. But so obviously this is super ingrained into your brand culture, and this is actually your product. But a lot of other leaders, they're trained in sales or data or tech, and they're focused on, they have a million things on their mind. They want to cut meetings as short as possible and be efficient. Where can they learn to find this empathy? And also they're not qualified as mental health professionals and often don't know much about it or how to approach it. Where can they learn how to lead this kind of mental health movement within their brand?
Yeah, it's actually a real challenge, because it's not something that, there's not like a magic bit of advice I can give now that and it will be fixed tomorrow. I think a lot of culture, like business culture, or most of the culture actually starts with leaders, CEOs, managers. They really set the tone. So if they're hesitant to talk about mental health, or if they've never worked on themselves or seen the benefit of working in mental health, then that's going to be passed down, and then the employees also won't talk about it, and then you'll have a culture that is kind of shut off. So I think for us, what's really, really big is we need leaders to like endorse mental health, or really I think the dream scenario is a leader that has worked on themselves. So maybe that's therapy or coaching or just a yoga retreat or whatever. Like if a leader knows like the benefit of good mental health and has worked on themselves, then that trickles down into the team. And I think it's not about every CEO becoming a therapist and putting aside like 30 hours a week to coach their team or give them therapy or whatever. I think it's more just about creating a culture of permission and a culture that gives people the permission to open up and to talk and to be themselves. And that doesn't mean people need to bring 100% of themselves to work every single day. It doesn't mean that the CEO has to start dealing with like difficult conversations every single day. It's more just creating a culture of acceptance. And if people know they can show up to work as they are, and that might mean that they're having an off day, then that is great. And I think then you start to get more out of people because they trust in their leaders. They know they can be themselves at work. You actually see the benefits. And I think if I'd been saying this 3 years ago, it would have felt really, really loose. But actually, there's been a lot of studies done recently that show the link between positive mental health and investing in mental health and a business return. Like there's a study been published recently that for every £1 a business invests in mental health, they'll see on average £5 return. So it's a huge ROI. So I think, the way we come at it is people should do this because it's just the right thing to do. Like morally, it's the right thing to do. But actually, there's a real business benefit to it as well. And there's a clear link between mental health and performance, productivity, retention. So I almost like, if a leader's like, I'm not interested, I'm almost like, why? Like,
doesn't care about your business.
Yeah.
So if I were a leader now who wanted to get one takeaway, one thing that I could implement tomorrow that could help my employees, what would that be?
Mm-hmm. God, this feels like the golden question. Like, what's the tidbit?
To get it started, at least. Obviously, it won't be the solution for everything, but there's probably something I could do.
I'd probably, some leaders will be further ahead on this, but I'd look at the stats and studies that are out there already. So like the stuff I've mentioned. So that was a Deloitte report. Have a look at what's already out there in terms of like the actual business case for investing in mental health. Kind of familiarize yourself with stats, the numbers, and you'll kind of see the business case from that. Then I'd look internally at your own business and see how you can relate those stats to what's happening inside. So what's your retention rates like? Do you use any employee engagement software? Like, can you kind of track any engagement rates? If not, can you send out an anonymous survey to employees asking them, what they think of the culture, the business, what's missing, kind of to score you? Look at things like sick days. Are people happy, basically? So see if you can kind of build a business case internally on your own stats and numbers. And I think from that, you get a really good picture of like how your business is doing and maybe where adjustments need to be made. And then if you're looking to just get started in mental health, you don't have to go down this big route. Like, Sanctus is actually quite a big like premium product in a way. Like we're a coaching program. It's very in your face. Like we physically go into businesses and we're physically like talking to employees regularly. You don't have to start with that. You can just start small with, maybe it's like a one-off talk. Like it's a talk from an inspirational business leader who's had a really difficult time with his mental health or her mental health, got through it, now they're really successful. Maybe it's a story like that where you can start the mental health conversation, but also link it to like good performance or success or whatever. If you're not quite ready to open like the can of worms, people call it, on mental health, I think that can be a really, really nice start. And what we've always seen is that actually people, like everyone has mental health and everyone has a story, whether they know that or not. And people do want a space to share. Maybe it's not really, really publicly, but people don't want to keep things bottled up because it's not actually good for you. So once you start the conversation and you create that culture of permission, people grab it with both hands because it's something they want, and you can start small and then that can build up to be something much, much bigger.
Cool. I think I'm going to stop it there just because I'm scared that Zoom is going to kick me off. I have the free version. But is there anything you want to add, or like where people can follow you and learn about how to implement this in their own businesses, or anything to mention?
I think for us, if you just go to sanctus.io, that's our website, so you can see more about the work that we do there. In terms of it's hard to say where for each business to start, because everyone's at like a different. Some people want to start really, really small. Some people want to start really, really big. So I think figure out like your own needs first, and then do your research from that. Like some people do just want to talk. Some people want to have every kind of mental health benefit right from the get-go. So there's no kind of like one set blueprint on getting it right. Not yet.
So you think it should be part of a business plan? Like if I was to start a startup tomorrow, I could plan this as a part of my, like I'm going to do marketing, I'm going to do sales, I'm going to do product development, and I'm going to do mental health. Even if you're two people on the team, for example?
Yeah, because, it's easier to set and amend a culture at the beginning. Like we've got businesses contacting us now who are hundreds of thousands of employees large. Like trying to change that culture is like trying to move a bloody oil tanker. Like it takes ages. Whereas when you're small, you're like a little speedboat, you can turn straight away. So yeah, and it doesn't have to be, when you do this mental health thing, it doesn't have to be spend loads of money on all these benefits from the get-go. It could just be as simple as you saying in onboarding or in the interview process or whatever that I go to therapy, or you could just put in your calendar your therapy slot each week for all the team to see. You haven't got to do anything else, but then they'll just see their leader openly say they go to therapy, and then they'll be okay to start saying that. Yeah. And then you just sort of like drip feed it in. And then before you know it, you're talking about it in meetings. And then, in 2 years down the line, when your startup's grown and you've actually got some revenue, then you can invest in mental health. There's a lot people can do that's completely free.
Yeah, just setting the example, right? Leading by example.
It makes it literally, I think that's where the buck stops at the moment. It's make or break. Like if a leader's not bought in, then actually like Sanctus doesn't work, to be honest, because they're sort of saying in the business that I don't really get all this, like it's a waste of time. So then how are employees ever going to want to go and book a person? Yeah. So that's always been our real challenge, to be honest, is leaders.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much, George, for spending some time with me today. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Flying Cat Marketing Series. If you enjoyed this interview, please give it a like, share it with your friends and colleagues, and subscribe to this channel. Stay tuned because next week I'll be interviewing another leader in the SaaS and startup world talking about their challenges and achievements. See you there.